Hello, everybody, and welcome to our April RV Lifestyle and Repair Club live event. We're going to answer questions today. We already have quite a few that are in there, and seen a lot of activity here in the last 30 days. We have actually had a wonderful winter here up in the northern Iowa is where we're at. I think we only got one measurable snowstorm of about 10 inches, but it's been in the 60s in the wintertime. It's just unbelievable. And this spring, I see some of the campgrounds starting to fill up. I see RVs running up and down the interstate and the highway. People take them out of storage. So everybody's getting the itch. Last time we met, I believe I was headed to the last show of the year up in Bedford, New Hampshire. It was up north of Boston. And out of the 6 shows I went to, that was the lowest attendant. They were down like 60% at that show. But overall, all the shows I've been doing for this RV Super Show promoter, they've been up 60%. Sales have been phenomenal. Prices are outstanding as dealers are trying to get rid of some of their inventory that's been sitting for since 22, 23. And so it's a great time to buy. So let's get to the questions. We have a couple that came in early. Like this one was April 8th. Gerald, and I don't know if Gerald is with us now. I don't see his name on, but there are some that are hidden here. But Gerald asks, and it's a good question, so that's why I want to cover it. He has a 2016 Forest River Cardinal. Inside on the panel, there's only one button to push to heat the water in the water heater. How do I know if the heater is running on shore power or propane? And that's a very good question, because you do not want to run an electric heater, 120 volt heater element with no water in it. So you really want to know what kind of a system you have. And typically, if you have a standard one switch on the inside, then you want to go outside and open the vent compartment on the backside of the water heater. And there should be an on-off switch for 120 volt there. So the way the system works is that when you turn the water heater on, then it will put power to the water heater for the switch on the inside, pull water to that, or power to that water heater. And then if you have that on-off switch, it will default to 120 volt. And if you run that with no water in there, you're going to burn up that heating element in as quick as 30 seconds. So it's really important to go in, open up the back side of it. We have a sample of one up here. If you want to just pan up there real quick on the shelf, that is an LP only. And you can see that there normally, if there was a 120 volt, you would have a switch somewhere right in here. The other thing that you can do is pull out your owner's manual. In 2016, you might not have one, but if you can get the model number on that side, you can download a copy of that. And I'm not sure what type of heater you either have, Suburban or Atwood. And you can tell by the label on the inside, but also that one there is an Atwood. And how you can tell is when you take the drain plug out, if it's a plastic drain plug, then it's Suburban, it's Atwood. If it is got an anode rod, it's metal with an anode rod on it, then it's going to be a Suburban, and you should be able to find the model number. But usually you will have an on-off switch on the inside that'll tell you. So Patricia then sent one in on the 20th. She says she has a 2018 Jayco Greyhawk MV29 motorhome. Every winter I disconnect and take the batteries out to keep it charged in my garage. In reinstalling the battery, one terminal was hooked up incorrectly. Now my inverter and generator will not work, and the power leveling system says low voltage. I have been searching everywhere for answers, but it is not working. All 110 volt outlets work, so I am thinking it's something related to the 12 volt system. Please help. Thank you, Frank. And it came from Patricia, but it said Frank in it. So I think what has happened when you hook those up backwards, you short it out. There's usually a reset button right for the inverter and the generator. We had this happen on a 2016 Thor Challenger, that the generator would not run and start, and there was an inline little spade fuse, and it might be a fuse that actually blows, but most of the time you're going to have just a spade fuse. So what I would look at is coming off your battery towards your inverter. And it may also be that your inverter has two little fuses on the back side. And I have one somewhere. I think I have it over here. Da, da, da. This happens to be a Go Power 700 watt, and I don't think you said the size that you have, but a lot of times what will happen with these is they're going to have a small little reset. Now this one just happens to be, because it's so small, 700 watt, it's going to have the reset right on the actual test button here itself, but you will see some of them that do have a fuse in it or a reset. And the other thing that you can look at with this 2018 29 motorhome, also take a look at the fuses in the distribution center as well. But I'm pretty sure that you've got somewhere a spade valve in there, or a spade fuse, and we literally just pushed it back in. We had the same thing happen on it was a Jayco, and it was a larger motorhome, but they had hooked the batteries up backwards and did the same thing when they were out here for RAGBRAI, which is a bike ride across Iowa. So what I would recommend is take a look in your battery compartment, probably underneath the steps. Look, and this is where your house batteries are at. You should have a line that goes to the inverter. Normally, that's going to be in a compartment fairly close to that. Just see if there's an inline fuse. If you can't find it, you'll need to get a hold of Jayco and just ask them. I doubt you're going to get a wiring diagram, but they should be able to walk you through where that's at. So hopefully it's just that. And the reason your 110 volt outlets are working is that you are obviously hooked to a 12 volt or 120 volt source. And those outlets, most of your inverters have a pass through. So they're just going to let that 120 go through and power those outlets. When there is no 120, they'll pull battery power. So I'm assuming that's what's happening. We've got AOK4U2NV. So that is not a Norwegian name. I know that for a fact. Anyway, 2022 Newmar Country Star diesel pusher. The outdoor security light is operated by a toggle switch inside the control panel. The light only works if I push on the toggle switch in, then switch on the toggle button. Like there's a loose wire that's been reconnected when I push on the panel. Could I just unscrew the panel and check the wires behind the toggle panel? I've never unscrewed the toggle panel, but there are two screws there. So what I would recommend, make sure you unplug the unit and disconnect the battery so you got no power going to anything in there. Normally, and I guess, you know, I question your description of a toggle switch. You know, normally the outdoor security light right next to the entrance door is just going to have a small little rocker type switch that's just a push up, and I don't know if they call them paddle switches or what, but a toggle switch to me is the little, you know, it's got a lever and you push it up and down, and I don't think that Newmar used those. And you know, but I've learned never to say never in the RV industry, and it's very possible that somebody put an aftermarket one in a dealership or something like that. But yeah, I would say disconnect the power, make sure you don't have anything that's going to those switches. You should be able to take those two screws off and just look at the back of the panel. Most of the time what it's going to have is just two little tabs on that inside, and then, you know, push pin connectors going into it. And it's very possible they've loosened up, or the actual terminals come apart. And so when you're pushing on it, it's making a better connection. So you're really going to have to get in and take a look at it. Take a picture of it in, you know, a couple different applications. When you first take the panel off, take a picture so you make sure that if any wires pull out, that you know where they go. Cindy Weber says she has a 2019 Forest River Wildwood RKSS. The water pump is inside a small side table that sits in between two freestanding recliners on the entry wall. Is there any way to move the water pump, or would it be too much of a hassle? Well, and normally, a lot of times the people that design these and build these don't have to work on them. So you see a lot of this stuff that's just really, really hard to get to and to work on. And part of what some of the designers look at is that they think that typically don't have to get to the water heater or water pump, which is not true in my opinion, is because you've got a screen in there that filters that, and every once in a while you want to take that screen off and clean it or replace it. So you can move the water pump. The only problem is that you run the risk of trying to put it into a location that you can get at, which is going to be a ways away from where it's at now, and then you're going to have to splice all those lines to get that water to the area that you're putting this new pump in. What I would probably do instead is the water, it sits inside a small side table. So evidently it's an enclosed type table, and to get at it's kind of hard. I would cut an access panel to that, either from the side where the chairs are at, if you can move the chair a little bit, or even in the front and just put a door over it. A lot of times you walk through an RV and you'll see a wall, and all of a sudden it has this decorative little square trim piece that doesn't seem to go to anything. And what that is they put an access panel in there to be able to get to the faucet on the other side for a shower, or in the bathroom, or something that's in there, so you don't have to tear apart all this stuff. So I would say take a look at what that compartment is that water pump is in, and just see if you could put just a little access panel and then put a larger, so you just cut a square, and then you take a piece of matching paneling or decorative, something that looks, like it isn't cobbled up, and hopefully with some trim around it, and just put that over top. And you can even screw it in so it's kind of permanently mounted there. But then you have better access. Just unscrew that and get into that water pump. Again, you can replace it or remove or relocate it, but you really have the challenge of how do you get water lines. Most likely you're going to have to go either out of there, so you're going to have to drill holes to get in and out, or into a different compartment. You're going to have to drill holes to get there, and water lines, and it's not an easy task. So Ed says, okay, so we're on the 25th. I have a 2022 Georgetown GT7, and I am purchasing a surge protector for my unit. I want to know if there are any disadvantages to going with a permanent installed rather than a portable unit. Do you have any words of wisdom on installing one? I plan to install it myself. So what Ed is looking at is he wants to get a surge protector that is going to be similar to this here. This is an older one. TRC is now owned by Southwire. There's a couple different companies that I recommend. I do recommend Southwire, and there's a variety of different models. You'll find different price points. The other one is Hughes, which has the Watchdog, and a couple things you want to look at. The portable ones are going to be a little cheaper. The reason that a lot of people are looking like he wants to do a permanently mounted one is this is pretty easy to steal. So if you're going to be in campgrounds where you feel there's some people around there that aren't going to respect your property and they're going to take these, then you might want to do a permanently mounted one inside. A little more expensive, a little harder to, a little more labor, not harder, but a little more labor that's going to be involved with it. The other thing you can do with these is they do make a locking mechanism. It's kind of a lock box that goes over this. But, for the most part, I've found that you've got a lot of people helping watch your unit. If you're going to be at a campground and you're going to be gone all the time, like, a lot of work campers will do the permanently mounted one because they're gone all day long. And sometimes into the night, and they have no idea what's happening. But I would say it depends on your campground. The big thing that I look at is and the price points that you're going to find is the number of joules. If you see right in here, it says 2450 joules of surge protection. And I don't know the technical aspect of what a joule is, but anytime you get a spike or a surge in electricity in these, it wipes out some of those joules. The cheaper models are going to have a low number of that and wipes them out. They're done. You got to buy a new one every time you get a surge, and it could be, you know, the campground source, it could be lightning, it could be a variety of different things that cause this. And you'll see, you know, it's not terribly common, but it does happen. So the higher the joule count, it's going to wipe out a certain number. The more it will reset itself over and over and over again. You know, what I like about this unit here is that when I plug it in fact, let's do that here. So the first thing you always want to do before you plug anything in is make sure it's off. We're going to run this out a little further here. Then we'll plug it in. So we see they got the firmware version. It's going to go through, and there's going to be about a 2-minute delay on this. And what it's doing is just making sure that, first of all, you got proper voltage. Above 132, it's going to shut off. Below 105, I believe it is, it's going to shut off as well. That's kind of the safe range. I like to be a little bit closer to 120 in these. It will also tell me the amp draw that my rig inside is doing. Now, the permanent mounted version of this, it's exactly the same thing in the box area. But what it's going to do is that you're going to mount it inside of the compartment, and then you can lock that compartment. So you're going to have to wire your shoreline cord to that, or be able to plug it into it. And then you're going to have to wire that box to your distribution center. And so there is a little more work that's involved in it. I have not myself put one of those in. I've seen a lot of them that are already inside and wired. I know Southwire has great technicians that will help you with it. What I like about the Watchdog, and I just recently kind of been researching that, and I've seen several different RV podcasts on it, is the Watchdog has a Bluetooth version, and you can get all that information on your phone. So, you know, with this one, I have to go outside and have to look at the, you know, what's on there. Otherwise, I can get it on my phone. I don't know if Southwire has that same capability now. I would imagine it does, because everybody is going wireless and Bluetooth. And let me just look real quick and see if I can pull up. I know that Southwire, and then they call them Southwire EMS. So you can get the, you didn't say if you had a 30 or 50 amp version. And I don't see it on here, but I'm just do a real quick. Well, I guess you can Google search just as easy as I can, but we'll take a look at some of those and see if they do have the Bluetooth version. So really it boils down to the fact is how secure do you think your, you know, portable one here is going to be at a campground source, kind of people that are at the campground. Otherwise, I wouldn't spend the money. I would just use one of these. So you see now where we're at. It has reset. You know, it's gone through its diagnostics. It shows up here that the power is on. There's no caution flashing. If you look real close, we have 125 volts. And OA. And we are drawing no amps because we don't have it hooked up to anything. So just gotta shut that down. But so that's what it does. It's going to help, you know, keep from high voltage and also from low voltage. If you have, you know, campground that's extended and it's got low voltage, the big boys come in. Also, it's doing a management of your energy system for you. Ed has a second question with the Georgetown. It says, my propane detector keeps going off. The propane is off and I see no leaks. It is only a couple of years old. Could it be defective? So there could be two things. You know, propane detectors have a tough time figuring out the propane components versus sometimes sewer components, perfumes, a variety of different things. The first thing I would do is, well, let me go step one back here. is that a propane detector will also go off if your batteries are low. So if you're dry camping, you're not plugged into a shoreline power, and your propane detector is going off, it's very possible that your batteries have gone just low enough to still work on, things to work inside, but that propane detector saying, uh-oh, hey, we're going to get too low. The gas, the spark won't go. We won't light. We don't want to have the gas valve open. So that's the first thing I would look at. Plug the unit in, make sure that you got proper power, because that charger then will do 13.2 volts. So your batteries are going to be, you're going to have enough 12-volt battery power. Then what I would do is, they can be defective, but I would definitely get them checked. You can get a gas sniffer pretty easy. Home Flex is one that you can get through Home Depot. There's a variety of other ones that are just actually sniffers, and I had one, but it walked away at my last show, so I don't have a sample of that one here. But it's a lot easier than using those the liquid to hit every single connection and valve that you have in there. But one thing I do want to caution: if it smells like propane, then you want to shut the propane down and have a qualified or certified technician take a look at it. If it's just the propane detector and it keeps going off and there's no smell of propane, and you're pretty sure that there's no major leak in it, then you can do a little bit of diagnostic yourself. But they do go bad. And you said you had a 2022, but so I really doubt it would go bad that fast. So there's a variety of them out there, and I would say 2022, check with your dealer and see if that's still under warranty. Some of those have a 2-year warranty on it, so it might still be something they can look at. Michael says, have you done any comparisons of any of the gel coat products, polygloss, glass 2, etc., that have been advertised to make your old coach and decals look like new? I have a 20-year-old Toga 29V Class C that runs and looks great, but the outside could use a little cleanup. So we have done a lot of research, different ceramic coatings, what to do with decals. And one of the things, in fact, I just had a question come up. Somebody asked me, what do I do with decals and ceramic coatings? Because in the past, we've always said, do not wax your decals. So what about ceramic coatings? So I got in touch with Sharpline, and I have a technician there that's been really helpful over the years. And he's the one that said, do not wax over your decals. And I asked him, so I sent the question. I said, what do you say on that? He said, well, the problem is there's so many different types of decals. There's so many variables and factors in it. So first of all, you get 2 basic different types. You got cast vinyl, and then you've got extruded vinyl. And then on top of that, you've got different coatings that go with the inks that are used for the coloring, for the swooshes, or the gradients. Some of them have UV protection built into them. So it's impossible to do a blanket yes or no. You can't do it. However, one of the things he did recommend is for your decals to use what's called rejects. They have a test facility out the back of their manufacturing facility with acres of decals out in the sun being tested with all different types of products and everything out there. And he said that they are finding that this rejects product here will extend the life of those decals by 2 years. And so, or by twice as long. So that could be anywhere from 5 to 7 years, maybe even more, depending on how often it's inside. And the big thing is sun's going to beat down on these. They're going to dry the decals out. They're going to crack. They're going to fade. They're going to peel, and this is going to keep them a lot more pliable. Now, excuse me. As far as the fiberglass, I've had a lot of people that just love the polyglass. I have not used it myself, but what Phylon and Chemlite, and they're the company, the Crane Composites, who make the fiberglass for the side of your rig. And since it's 20 years old, I'm assuming you got Phylon on the outside of it. They recommend Meguiar's 54 RV and Marine wax. And what they recommend is that, first of all, that you do the Meguiar's has a cleaning and a polishing compound to start with. So it's basically getting the oxidation off if it's not too bad. You will never bring back old decals that have started to fade really bad, and a lot of times fiberglass that has gone way down. But use the oxidation product. It's Meguiar's. You'll see like this one here. This is their premium liquid wax, but they also have their other products in here. Yeah, and one of the things too, it was kind of interesting. I have always been a diehard Dawn dish soap advocate. A little bit of Dawn in dishwater and in water, and you can wash anything with it. And I had this recently. We just put a ceramic coating on my wife's Audi. And, I've never been a real big fan of ceramic coatings. You buy a vehicle, you go in the F&I office, and they want you to treat the fabrics, you treat the carpet, put this super duper coating on the outside of it. And to me, it's always been what we call moon dust and monkey glands. And but being the good husband that I am, I didn't fight it. And I said, whatever. So she had a third party do it. We didn't do it at the dealership. We wanted to do some research. We had a local guy that did it, and he's done many, many RVs and hundreds of cars. And I got to admit that I was very impressed. I asked him what he does with the ceramic over the decals. And he said, well, the first thing, same thing, the quality of the decal is important. If it started to fade a little bit, he can tell by just doing a clay bar if that decal is a quality, one of the cast vinyls and going to last. And so he has put a ceramic coating on his personal RV that's been on for 4 years. And it looks like brand new. It's a Puma travel trailer, and it is absolutely in perfect condition. The sidewalls, the decals, everything looks like it just came out of the factory. Actually better because it shines like crazy. And anyway, I was very impressed. And so I asked him what he cleans with. And I said, Dawn dish soap. And he said, no. Dawn dish soap is designed to break down petroleums, waxes, oils, like the ducks in Alaska. That was my whole thing, is it's got to be safe because it will break down waxes and ceramic coatings. And he's got 3 examples of people that have done a ceramic coating, and this is like $1,000 process. So it's one of the top of the line ceramics, and it's guaranteed. It will even get registered on Carfax. You come back every 6 months and do a refresher, and it's guaranteed to last the life of the car. And it's like, wow. But he's had this on his decals, but he said that when you use Dawn dish soap, it will it'll wear that ceramic and that wax down. And I've always been, on the opposite side of that, but he's got 3 different units that he put the ceramic coating on. They came back a year later and it was completely dull, and they had used Dawn dish soap. So we talked about, and one of the things that we are working on is he has a product that will not only keep the shine in, but then it's a refresher for a wax or a recoating, a ceramic coating. And we're hoping to put that in the store here. So keep an eye on that. We'll have some information on it. But in the meantime, what he said is he recommends to look at and I don't know if you can see it right here. Meguiar's has a hybrid car wash. So you can either use the car wash version like this, or the hybrid is designed for cars that have been waxed or ceramic coated, and it will just about a dime size of this in a bucket of water. It's one of the best things to wash it and to refresh wax and ceramic coatings. So I got some of this coming, and we're going to do some videos on that this summer again. But again, teach an old dog new tricks, I guess. So I was always a Dawn person, but now I am going with the Meguiar's. And like I say, a lot of people like the polygloss. I just have not used it, and I know that Crane and the others do not recommend that. It's not that they say anything's bad about it. They just recommend this instead. Okay, so we also have a download, I believe. Let me go back up to the top. And did we do that before? Right about. Okay, I guess, Katie, if you want to take a look and see if we have a download this on this session or not. Usually we do, but I don't see it up in the top. Dwayne says, I have a 2019 Coachman Murata BH35 BR54. That's just, sorry. I was told that the seals on the roof need to be replaced. What is a good sealant? Is it hard to do if I try to do it, or should I get it serviced? So what you've got, 2019, Dwayne, what I would do is I would go up and look at the unit itself, and it's very possible that's a 5 or 6 year old coach. What they're talking about is the roof to sidewall. And I'm going to use my little. So you've got a Murata, which is going to be a Class A, very similar to this right here. On the very front of it, you're going to have a front cap. And right here is going to be a seam. So this is going to be a hard fiberglass cap. Typically, the Murata is going to have a rubber membrane on the backside, whether it's EPDM or TPO. You'll have to find out. And then, so you've got a big seam right here that needs to be checked and sealed if you see any cracks, separations, pinholes. And the thing that is important about this is this will expand and contract with temperature changes. So your rubber membrane is going to expand differently than the hard fiberglass front here. And so what you get is a J channel that's going to move back and forth. That sealant needs to move with it. And so what's on here is a self-leveling lap sealant. That means it's going to level out rather than like toothpaste that would just, sit as a big bead in there. There's a variety of different companies that have it. These are the typical ones. Now, this is what Winnebago uses, the NewFlex 311 for the sealant. What I like about Winnebago is you go on their website and you go to the owner section, you go to the resources, you can download a sealant chart for your vehicle and the components that are in there. I don't know of anybody else that does that. So I know that your Coachman does not have that, but what you need to find out is what kind of material is up here. So this is Dicor, and Dicor sealant is, and I got this at Litson's RV in Forest City, and it's white. And what I'm looking for is what material is it for? Not all silicones can be put on fiberglass. Not all silicones can be put on rubber membranes. Do you have EPDM? Do you have TPO? Do you have alpha systems? There are a variety of different ones. Winnebago's got fiberglass, and I know yours doesn't have that. So this might not be the best sealant for that. So what you need to do is you need to get your, let me grab a sample here. So these are different roof materials. EPDM is going to be black, and actually it starts off as just this. It's a commercial rubber membrane that's been used on, commercial buildings for years, and they started putting it on RVs somewhere around 1988, 89 timeframe. Now, Winnebago chose to go with fiberglass on their roof, which is very similar to what's on the sidewall, which I think is the best material out there. But, this stuff isn't bad either. So if you look at some of these, this one happens to be Dicor EPDM. It's black on the underside. So no matter what your top color is, go inside, take the ring off around one of your roof vents, pull it down, and you'll see some of this stuff tucked inside. If it is the same color on the backside, it is EPDM, or they call theirs Diflex. It could possibly be one of the extreme plies. That's going to be white on both sides. And you'll see a difference in the materials. They're going to have, like, this EPDM's got a grain to it. This is going to be smooth. It's 2019, so I doubt it's going to be the extreme, or the alpha is going to have a fleece back to it. But if you find, what type of material, EPDM, TPO, so you can pretty much tell when you get in there, the cheaper units, and I don't think the Murata, I think you might have gone up with a TPO. So get in touch with Dicor and get the self-leveling sealant that is designed for that. So the other areas that you want to look at is anything around a roof vent, a sewer vent, the refrigerator vent, and then you have your roof to sidewall. And I'm not sure exactly how the Murata is done. This is a sample of the Winnebago, and the roof, this is your sidewall, this is your roof material, comes around, wraps around this and tucks inside here. So there is no seal up on the top of this. So take a look. That I would venture to say that your Murata probably has more of a squared off 90 degree where it comes in and the roof sits on the top, and there's a trim piece. So all that stuff needs to be inspected. And what you're trying to do is you want to keep it from leaking. That's the bottom line. And as that stuff expands and contracts, then it's going to pull away and it's going to leak. So the easiest way to do that is to take a heat gun, put it on a low setting, and just go up. And if you see something that starts to look like it's pulling apart, it's got cracks in it, it's got pinholes, then take that heat gun and a plastic putty knife and just heat that up. It becomes pliable, and just scrape it off until you get a nice surface. You don't have to get all of it off, but just get a flatter surface that you can work on, and then put some of this on so it will level out and seal that whole area. A lot of times what you're going to get is you go into a dealership and they're going to say, 6-year-old coach, I see it starting to get really kind of goopy up there and it looks susceptible. You need to reseal that coach. Well, chances are you don't have to reseal the entire thing. And if you don't see any leaks in there, it's like, well, I'm going to inspect it. If it does start to look a little susceptible, then sometimes you just see where service centers are trying to drum up business. And at $200 an hour, when they go to reseal that, you probably got about 10 or 12 hours out of it. So it's going to be expensive. You can do it yourself. It's like putting silicone around a window in a house. Just get the right product, know what you're looking for, make sure you clean it off pretty well, and reseal it. I do not recommend Eternabond. Eternabond is a tape that a lot of people swear by and a lot of people swear at. I have some somewhere, but I don't see where it's at right now. Anyway, Eternabond is going to be about a 4-inch wide tape. I'm going to look over here. Seems like every time I go to a show, everything goes all over the place. So I don't see it right off the bat here. But anyway, it's a 4-inch roll of tape. It's okay in an emergency, but what happens with that stuff is the more you expose it to the sun, the more it dries out and gets hard, and it's really almost impossible to get off. Now, some people have put it on, they love it, they use it all, they've had it on for years, but most of those people are not in really hot areas and exposed to the sun a lot. I personally think with what you've got, it's better at this point. You're probably not too far into it being bad, is to just scrape it off. Be careful with the heat gun that you don't get it too close to burn the rubber and start to melt that. I don't recommend a hair dryer. Some people say that because anytime I've used a hair dryer for any time of heating stuff up, first of all, it doesn't get usually hot enough. And second of all, after a certain amount of time, it overheats and it's got a little thermal thing and it just shuts down. So I've never had any good luck with those. But heat gun on a real low setting works the best. Deb Grimm, we have 2015 Coachman Leprechaun, and it needs a new roof. I saw an advertisement for one with a lifetime warranty. Don't have the info handy. What do you think? Well, so it depends on when you say it needs a new roof. That could mean a lot of different things. Does it need new roof material? Does it need all new wood. Is the wood rotted on the inside of it? So there's so many variables that, you know, can go with it. I have seen a variety of different products that I really like. If you need to just recoat an existing roof, RV Roof Magic is one that I've come across. I had a sample sent out to Sherry Sicard, who was one of the writers for RV Travel. She did her own trailer with that and absolutely loves it. It's a great coating. She cleaned her existing roof, which had a lot of mold and a lot of, but it wasn't cracked. It wasn't, you know, in ruined. So it didn't need to be completely replaced. It just needed to be, you know, a covering over the top of it. They do have, I believe it's a 10-year warranty. If you are looking at something like this Extreme or the Alpha Systems, the PVCs that are out now, they do have a lifetime warranty on that material. So if you're looking at just the material, those are great products, really good products. If you have an existing roof that can be cleaned, you definitely want to use a fungicide, and I highly recommend taking a look at RV Roof Magic. And they've got a fungicide that starts, so you want to get all the mold or any fungus that's off there. Otherwise, it's going to bleed through the new stuff. Now, Dicor does have a roof coating material. You have to do it's not guaranteed. You have to do that more often, and the more it's exposed to the sun, the less it you know, the less it will last. I haven't had a lot of people that have been real satisfied with that on a long period of time. So to me, you know, the better materials out there. If you need a whole new roof, you know, then, and you're talking the underlayment board, you know, whatever. I don't, Coachman Leprechaun. So you probably have, you know, 1/2-inch particle board up there. If that started to get wet, you know, then we're talking a whole different thing. But I would get a little more information on what components, when they say you need a new roof, what components are they talking about? That's fairly generic. I think this is the same one. Hi, Dave. We need to redo our roof. We have a 2000 Coachman. I don't have the info handy, but I saw our own company has. So that's the same question. Jacob Lee asked, why do Amish people build campers so crappy? And actually, Jacob, I've heard just the opposite. Amish that are out in Middlebury, Indiana, Elkhart area, that's where most of the Amish labor force is at. They build the Newmars. They do absolutely outstanding craftsmanship in their furniture and all that stuff. So I'm not sure why you're, you know, targeting that, you know, national, not whatever denomination, because in the past they've been absolutely outstanding. Now, through COVID, what's happened is companies shut down for long periods of time. They came back in. Workers had already gone somewhere else. They wanted them to come back. They were getting their you know, unemployment money and everything. And we had to have a whole new group of people that weren't as skilled come in and start building these coaches. And there were some quality issues. You know, I won't deny that. And you know, so I think they build outstanding stuff. You know, we've got an Amish community down by Iowa City that builds furniture. And it's the best stuff I've seen around. So I don't think you can just you know, narrow that into. I've seen a lot of other people build crappy RVs. So AOK for you 2NV says yes, it's a rocker. And what was that's Newmark Country Shadis pusher? Okay, it's a rocker. I couldn't remember what the question was. It was about the outside light. So I was thinking maybe it was like, hopefully it wasn't built by an Amish person. It wouldn't be a very good rocker, I don't think, from what I hear. Sorry. Yeah, so if it's a rocker switch, that's a little easier. You'll have 2 tabs on the inside of that it goes into, and you should be able to, if the rocker switch is bad, that's a pretty generic piece you can find. I would say go to eTrailer. You know, even there's a lot of companies like just now I can't remember the ones we used to buy from, Waytech, and those have very similar ones in there. So Katie put up traveling with pets checklist is this month's download. Make sure you go and take a look at the download that's on our list right now. Ginger says, I have a 2006 Road Trek 170 with an Onan generator, which is mounted underneath near the rear tire. I tried to start it last year, changed out some things like the spark plugs, etc., and determined that it was just a victim of neglect. I didn't start it enough. It's probably truly stuck from old sitting gas. I'm having a bear of a time finding somebody to work on it. Is it possible to remove the generator and clean it out on a bench instead of trying to make it work? A range of options would be welcome. So most likely what's happened, it's an Onan generator. That's pretty standard in the industry. Almost everybody uses those on permanently mounted versions of that. And the recommendation is that you start that generator once a month and run it for 30 minutes at least under load, at least 50% load. So, you've got probably a 4,000 watt generator. And, what happens is the gas varnishes in the carburetor. And so you get enough varnish in there, then it just won't start. And this happened to my folks up in Alaska really quickly after they bought their unit and went on the caravan up there. We had to get it taken in, and they rebuild the carburetor. Now, one of the things you could try is we have had a couple cases where we have taken the fuel line off, and we got a 1 gallon gas can with some Sta-Bil or Seafoam inside that. And then we ran that through it and tried to just kept starting it, kept letting it pull up through there. So it depends on your level of expertise and how comfortable you feel pulling a fuel line off and putting a new fuel system in it. I've had some people say they just put 2 cans of Seafoam in the actual gas tank of the motorized, and they've got it to work. Probably not, if it's been sitting that long. Otherwise, it's not that you have to take the whole generator out, but just make sure you take the fuel filter out, put a new one of those in, oil filter, clean out whatever you can, and then it's a matter of taking the carburetor and just having it cleaned out, and getting the varnish out of it. So hopefully that helps. Michael says, I have a similar question to Ginger about my 20-year-old Tioga Onan generator that only has 180 hours on it. It runs just fine, but I can't get it to start from the switch in the coach on the panel. I have to go to the generator itself and play with the throttle linkage to get it to start. Once it starts, it runs great. It's had a regular maintenance like spark plugs, filters. Cummins said they can go over it, but I am looking at $1,000 bill for them to go through it. So what I would recommend is if you can still get it started by playing with that linkage in there, then you're starting to get some varnish. I would also make sure that it's a 20-year-old Tioga, so you probably have either a high altitude switch or a winter-summer switch on there. Take a look at that, because that would allow you to manually go in. 20 years ago, we did this where we change it over. High humidity, keep saying it. High altitude means your air is thinner, so you need to adjust that mixture differently. Cold air is a very similar thing, so I think you had less in that. And so I would look at those two things first, but then I would really recommend getting some Seafoam. Onan has their own proprietary cleaner that you can put in as well, but you should be able to clean that out without having to go through that $1,000 and run it under load for at least an hour. That's the big thing. You need to burn that varnish out of the inside of it. If you just start it up and let it go and it's only doing a little bit of stuff inside, you don't have the roof airs running. What I typically like to do is put a couple of those ceramic heaters in and just get that amp draw up to, as close to 30 amps as possible on that generator. Just let it cook. We had a similar problem. I had 2 satellite uplink trucks several years back. We had a diesel generator, and it would smoke. So we were doing uplinks for football games, basketball games, and our generator, we'd get in there and fire the generator up, and it smoked so bad that they would make us leave. And so the driver would start the generator up about 50 miles outside of town. So it finally would work out, and then we'd quit smoking. And he thought that was good. Well, the more he did that with no load on it, the more it would carbon up. So that's what you get with the diesels, is that they're going to get carbon and black smoke coming out of it. So you need to run that under load. And what we ended up doing with that one is we found a guy locally here that has a corn dryer, and we hooked that up to a corn dryer. So you don't have to go to that extreme, but it did work. And it's basically just cleaning that out. So I don't see any more questions here. I do want to bring up a couple things that that I came across here just recently. One of them is the slide rooms. And I got a question from one of our readers that said they were told that you cannot use the slide room when it's retracted inside the RV, that it will ruin the motors. And it had a Schwintek motor system in it. And everybody, there's a lot of issues with Schwintek. There's a lot of bad press out there. And, I've done a lot of research on those. If they're used properly, if they're maintained, if they're cycled like they're supposed to be, those Schwinteks will work very, very well. But there's just so many different issues. And so what happened is this owner said, I was told by Grand Design that I cannot use the slide room when it's retracted, when it's in. And so I called Grand Design and I said, so what is your recommendation? They said, well, we've never heard of that, and let me get back to you. And they went back, and I got a call back from one of their customer service reps that obviously just has a cheat sheet. And they said, yep, we were told by service not to use the inside because it will put stress on the motors. I said, so why don't you put that in your owner's manual? Well, we just found out about it. I said, okay, so there's no bulletins anywhere. There's nothing. So it's kind of one of those secret warranties that we hear about. But I asked her, I said, so how, with the slide room completely in, the frame around the outside of the trim piece sits flush against the sidewall and is completely stabilized. How does using a dinette or a sofa inside one is completely in, how does that ruin the motors? And she said, put stress on the motors. It's like, well, that wasn't good enough. So I called Lippert, and I got one of their technicians, and they said, you know what? I'd never heard of that either. Let me call you back. And so they called me back, and they said, Grand Design has had several problems with the rooms when people are using them inside, and we recommend that you don't use them when they're retracted, because there are rollers. So Schwintek, the way it's designed, it has, I wish I had a better thing here, but it has the cutout here. The room goes in and out. It's got rollers on the floor that the room slides in and out on, and it's got these motors up on the top. So there's no weight on the motors. And they said it does not cause any stress on the motor itself. But the problem is that when that room comes in, let's say this is the bottom of the room, and here are, so it's extended like this. We got our rollers. So the room comes in, and it's sitting here, and the rollers are holding it up against the sidewall. There's no damage, there's no stress on the motors. But here's what happens. The minute you step on the floor, notice that? The minute you step on that floor, it is sitting out. The rollers are holding it and up against the sidewall. There's nothing holding it out on the very end. So when you step on that floor, it's going to push down. It's going to bend. And now the room is out of tolerance. And now you're trying to move that room in and out. That's got a bent floor, and it's not a square bottom. So if you have a Schwintek version, what they recommend to do is just put a shim underneath. So when you bring it in, put a 1x4 or a 2x4, depending on the gap that you've got in there. Just put that shim in, so when you step on it, it's got support underneath. That's what it was doing. I thought, you learn something every day. Jeff Spinner came in with one more question. I think, yeah, we got time. I have a 2017 Keystone Cougar. I purchased this used, and the thing that's always bothered me is the propane line underneath the trailer has a lot of rust on it. I've started working on it with a wire brush, but I'm not sure the best way to clean this up. It just seems to be surface rust, and it's not destroying the metal. And it's just surface rust. So the black pipe that they're using, because it's exposed, I'm sure you're in an area that has a little bit of salt used in the wintertime, or if you're on the coasts, you have salt in the actual air, and humid days will do that to it. So what I would recommend is there's a couple products that are great on rust. Corrosion X is one of them, or Corrosion XD. These are not only rust inhibitors, but they will literally disintegrate rust on metal. You know, I've used it on the frame of my truck. I noticed in the wheel well where it was starting to really get kind of rusty and look kind of bad. I sprayed this on it and let it set for a few days and then washed it off. It's like, wow. So this is some pretty fantastic stuff. I would recommend using that. And I've started using this on just about anything that comes in that's got a metal component to it, like the tongue of a trailer, the framing underneath. You know, that'll just help prevent that from rusting. Now, I used to use fluid film. I think I probably even threw that away now. Yep, I don't have it in here. And fluid film's a great product too. It will stop the rust. It will take the rust off. The only problem is fluid film leaves a real oily residue on it, and it smells. So I couldn't stand the smell of it anymore. So I went to this stuff, and I highly recommend it. This is the same company that does the rejects, that sells both of these things. So that's what I would recommend, and it should take that away. So with that, I don't think we have any more questions that came up. Again, if you want to download, if you're traveling with pets, that checklist is a great piece to have on just some things to be aware of at the campground. You know, make sure you get proper water, because the water at the campground is going to be hard water. It's going to have rust, calcium, lime, minerals in it. You want to check to make sure. One of the biggest things is when you pull in the campground site, where's your neighbor's generator and where's that exhaust? If they're going to fire up that generator in the middle of a hot day, that exhaust is going to come over into your patio. You don't want to have your pets or yourself in that area. So with that, thank you for joining us. Hopefully you get a chance to go out and do some camping in good weather here coming up.